Hello, everybody. This is Debo with Debo's Movie Reviews here, and today I will be reviewing a little known movie called Timequest, starring Bruce Campbell as William Roberts, who's in this universe is a filmmaker. Which, before I say any more, I should also mark Timequest, a movie where shows that shows the biggest what if JFK was not assassinated in Dallas. And on that note, I should also put on the rest of the cast, starring, like I already mentioned, Ralph Raitt at the time traveler who goes back to save Kennedy, saves the Kennedys. Was Ralph Raitt, best known as the dad from the Waltons. Then you got Bruce Campbell, very much in the second movie he ever made, that he was ever in, that pertained to JFK. The other being Bubba Hotep. And then, of course, you got Victor Slazak as John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Vince Grant as Robert Francis Kennedy, and Caprice Benedetti as Jacqueline, along with Barry Corbin as Lyndon Johnson. And that pretty much rounds out the main cast. Cast against that lesser known actor that played the fictional son, James Robert Kennedy, which kind of surprised. A good thing it was an independent film, because given it was made in 2000, a year after the death of John Jr. Oh, that would have been some shitstorm if somebody like Oliver Stone or fucking who of course did that masterpiece about the great Jim Garrison. Which that'll be for another review. And of course, or if somebody like Scorsese did that take because given 2000 and year after the tragic passing of John Jr. Yeah, imagine the kind of controversy that would have been. But no, but hey, it took me 20 years as both a movie buff and somebody who's nerded out over the Kennedy since the age of 9. I mean, discovered that movie soon. Oh, that been 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 one of those underrated hidden gems. And I've got to give it to him because after watching twice, once just to see how it played out, figured it was going to be what. And because trust me, this one is not like how Stephen King depicted in his novel and Hulu miniseries, where Kennedy gets saved but becomes a dictator. Because I say King just depicted a Kennedy that supposedly played ball. But yeah, for all you conspiracy-minded people out there, you gotta know when General L. Lemonster gave him the try to present the Operation Northwoods. Let's just say that was his fuck it moment. So about the movie, I can say great performances by the actors I listed, and I swore I kind of would never get political when I started this channel, but this is kind of one I'm kind of my exception, given how I want to review this movie, and this kind of also counts as my review of this Hulu miniseries, because I've already mentioned how King depicted a Kennedy that played ball, because in that novel it was about guys trying to prevent Oswald, whereas this movie, not only they stop Oswald, but there's this one scene where Agent Clint Hill and Bobby both personally take down the guy in the grassy knoll, but the movie never acknowledged that who was behind it, like the mob or the CIA or working in interest with the military industrial complex. Hell, who knows? Kind of like depicted in the somewhat fictional novel of the Irishman was based off of. And you can pretty much see how Bay of Pigs played out was by mafia guys working for the CIA. Kind of like you almost say they had that partnership where they were basically where the mob was basically the CIA suicide squad, given the relationships between the CIA and key figures in the Oliver Stone movie, whereas did whereas David Ferry was a pilot for Carlos Marcello, who was a gangster, which of course this movie does not acknowledge because you just get like about that, and then they stopped it where they stop it. Kennedy continues to do good. Like for example, instead of Vietnam, we go to the moon earlier. Instead of Armstrong, it's John Glenn and a Russian guy. I mean, an whole moving scene where they both put their flags down and do a high five, and how in real life Jack Val Joseph Mead's character, or Raymond Mead, played by damn, I can't forget brain fart on the younger version's name, but the old man version was, but that was the old man version played by Ralph Waite, the time traveler, and what his path was which was after altering the timeline by saving the Kennedys, which his motivation was how Jackie stood her ground and helped inspire the nation after an assassination to cope and all. And a lot of other far-fetched kind of parallel universe things, like I've already mentioned, the moon landing. Because in this timeline, Kennedy, in the movie timeline, Kennedy, of course, dies as an old man at the age of 83. And instead of being buried in Arlington, he's buried on the moon. In a private lunar colony model named after him. And of course, when that, which probably didn't know it would have happened, but even in that, if the Kennedys lived, would have been when Robert became president. Martin Luther King would have been vice, because though they both were inspirational figures of the 90s. Oh, I meant the 60s. I don't know why I said 90s. Excuse that. The 1960s. Yeah, and from research, you gotta say their relationship was a bit rocky, to where in real life Bobby did order wiretaps on King at one point, but that's because he had. But I believe that was because he had Hoover so far up his own ass, which I could also say in Timequest is another alternate thing of when is that Bobby finally makes Hoover his bitch. And in that universe, the Warren Report exposes corruption in CIA, which of course gets them shut down, which of course is why the CIA supposedly took part in the assassination. Was because he was wanting to fuck them. He was wanting to shut them down after their failure over Bay of Pigs and making him look bad. And this movie did predict the Kennedy that the conspiracy theorists, me being one of them, would about all the good he's done, and it would have done. Like, for example, I already mentioned we don't go in that universe. Vietnam wouldn't have happened. And focuses on space travel, which anyone knows about Kennedy's knows that JFK was big on that. And of course, the movie always leaves mentions on enemies because of course he takes down CIA. Even had a even it was back to the scene where Hoover tries to blackmail Bob Kennedy's again for the last time, and then there's a scene where Bobby puts his own counter techniques over Hoover's own actions, and then says, "I found some interesting photos, Mr. Hoover." He said about how his wife should have worn the same dress, and it would have been better for him to say, "Oh, by the way, Mr. Hoover, Ethel wears the same one." Which, of course, reference to Ethel Skakel Kennedy, the widow of Robert Francis Kennedy. And, of course, an alternate, which, overall, I got for a low budget B movie, I got to give an excellent 5 out of 5. I mean, just, it's moving, inspiring, and a better answer to what could have been. Unlike 11/22/63, which I believe had the mob targeted Bobby first. That's what would have happened, in my opinion. In the conspiracy was Bobby busting balls, and the mob whacked JFK to send a message, which of course led in the case of Bobby getting assassinated was him continuing to go after the military-industrial complex, because had he won in '68, Vietnam would have ended right then and there. And of course, he would have continued John's draining of the swamp by the abolition of the CIA. Which is kind of why I believe they whacked the Kennedys were whacked, because they drained the swamp. Because they would have drained the swamp. I mean, before I go, I mean, I can believe it's a conspiracy just by how they mentioned that the line in JFK where he talked about how snipers and sharpshooters knows that the first shot's the only good shot, and as a deer hunter, I can pretty much attest to that. Which is pretty much one of the biggest giveaways of the Warren Report. Overall, the movie's a 5 out of 5, but I hope this video opened your eyes and let you do your own research, especially with the 60th anniversary coming up. Okay, y'all. That'll do it for this week. I hope y'all like, subscribe, and enjoy, and I'll keep dishing them out.